Did you know that trauma can actually rewire your brain and get stored in your body? I have always found this fascinating. And as someone who works with both mind and body, it's been eye opening to see how some very recent research lines up with what we've known in core energetics and integral psychology for years. What really caught my attention in this recent research is how trauma continues to affect us long after the event itself. It's not just a memory or a feeling, it actually changes the structure of the brain. Let me explain. When we experience something traumatic, and I won't argue about how serious the trauma has to be in order to qualify as trauma. Let's set that aside for another day. But when we experience something traumatic, the part of the brain called the amygdala, which handles fear and threat detection, goes into overdrive. It's like your brain's alarm system gets stuck in the on position. The amygdala stays in this on position, this high alert mode, even when there's no real danger. This can leave us feeling anxious, hypervigilant, or like we're always scanning the environment for threats, even when we're in safe conditions. It's like we're running away from a saber-toothed tiger. That's how our body is responding to it. Trauma also affects another part of the brain called the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is responsible for things like decision-making, self-control, and regulating our emotions. After trauma, this area of the brain doesn't function as effectively, which is why many people who have experienced trauma struggle with emotional regulation or feel like they're always reacting to things instead of responding thoughtfully. There's also the hippocampus, which is involved in memory processing. Trauma actually shrinks the hippocampus, which makes it harder to integrate memories properly. So for some people, it's not just that they can't forget a traumatic event, it's that the brain keeps replaying it like a stuck record. Now here's where it gets more interesting. It's not just the brain that holds on to our trauma. Our bodies do too. This is something we really focus on in core energetics. When we go through a traumatic experience, the body holds on to that stress and stores it as blocked energy. That stuck energy can show up as physical tension, chronic stress, or even emotional numbness. This is why simply talking about trauma, while important, often isn't enough. Sure, talk therapy can help us process emotions, gain perspective, rewire our faulty belief systems. But what about the way trauma is stored in the body? That's where approaches like core energetics come in. In core energetics, we work directly with the body to release that stuck energy. This might involve movement, breath work, or specific body techniques that help the body let go of the tension that it's been holding since the trauma. The goal is to help the body process what the mind sometimes can't. It's about moving the energy that's gotten stuck and opening up a path for true emotional release and healing. But here's the thing. It's not just about the physical body. Trauma affects us on multiple levels, and this is where integral psychology comes into play. Integral psychology, which draws heavily from the work of Ken Wilber, looks at the whole person, mind, body, spirit, and even our social connections. It helps us see that trauma just doesn't impact one part of us. It ripples through all aspects of our being. We're not just dealing with physical and emotional effects, but also spiritual and relational ones. When we use integral psychology in healing, we're not just treating symptoms or focusing on one part of the person. We're looking at the whole picture. How our thoughts and emotions are affecting our bodies, how our body's response to trauma impacts our relationships, our sense of purpose, and our ability to connect with others. Let me give you a practical example. Let's say that someone experienced emotional neglect as a child. This trauma might rewire their brain to expect rejection or abandonment throughout their lives. And this can show up later in life as difficulty trusting others. They might constantly feel anxious in relationships, even when there's no reason to feel that way. The brain is on high alert, expecting rejection at any moment. But it doesn't stop there. The body holds on to that trauma. That person might feel chronic tension in their chest or stomach. They might struggle to fully relax. This is the body's way of holding on to that old pattern of expecting abandonment, even when the mind knows that the situation is different. Recovering from that trauma then requires an approach that addresses both the mind and the body. And that is, of course, where core energetics and integral psychology offer such powerful tools. In core energetics, we're working with the body to release those old patterns, getting energy moving again and helping the body process the trauma in a way that leads to real freedom. And through integral psychology, we're looking at the bigger picture. How can we integrate this healing on every level of our being, emotionally, physically, and spiritually? There's a growing body of research that supports this mind-body connection. For example, studies have shown that trauma is linked to higher levels of cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone. Over time, elevated cortisol levels can lead to physical health problems like high blood pressure, immune system dysfunction, and chronic inflammation. This is why people who have experienced trauma often develop physical health issues later in life. It's not just in their heads, it's in their bodies. But here's what excites me the most. When we understand how trauma affects both the brain and the body, we open up new possibilities for healing. It's not just about managing symptoms. It's about getting to the root cause. When we include the body in the healing process, we're addressing those deeply held patterns of stress and tension that have always kept us stuck in cycles of fear or anxiety. By connecting with the mind and the body, we can release those patterns and truly move forward. We can break free from the fear and hypervigilance that trauma creates. We can stop living in a constant state of fight or flight and start living with more ease, peace, and connection to ourselves and others. So if you've experienced trauma, so many of us have, maybe all of us, at one level or another, it's important to know that there are ways to heal that go beyond just talking about it. By reconnecting with your body and by understanding how trauma impacts your mind and your physical self, you can start resolving those patterns and move forward in a more integrated, whole way. I'll be sharing more about these approaches, how they work, how you can start using them in your own life. If this resonates with you, or if you've experienced this kind of disconnect between your mind and body, drop a comment below. Let's keep this conversation going together. We can explore how to heal in a deeper, more complete way. If you found this at all helpful, please make sure you follow me for more insights on trauma, healing, and the mind-body connection. And don't forget to like and share this video if you think it could help someone else on their healing journey. Thanks so much for watching. Be well.